Picture this: you wake up tomorrow and check your phone, and there is nothing, no messages, no calls, no one asking for your time, your advice, your energy, and for a moment, you feel it, that cold realization that you've been everyone's convenience store, open 24/7, always available, always giving, and they've been taken without ever paying the price. And here's what the Stoics understood 2,000 years ago that Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations while ruling an empire to things. You think you must ever often the chains that bind you, and right now in this moment you are chained to being everyone's second choice, their backup plan, their emotional support, their problem solver, but never their priority, and it is destroying you slowly and visibly, completely. Most men spend their entire lives being available, being the nice guy, being the one who always shows up, and they wonder why no one values them, why people only remember them when they need something, why the moment they stop giving everyone disappears. And the answer is brutal but liberating. You taught them that you have no value, because value is not determined by what you give, it is determined by what you withhold. Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But here is the twist: you are suffering in reality because you imagine that being available would make you valuable, that being everyone's option would eventually make you their priority, and that imagination, that false belief, has created your prison. Think about the last time someone reached out to you. Really think about it. Was it because they missed you, because they valued your presence, or was it because they needed something and you were the reliable one, the one who never says no, the one who drops everything? And here's a pattern you have probably noticed: they take days to respond to you, but expect you to reply instantly. They make plans with others, but keep you as the backup. They talk about their lives, but never ask about yours and you. Accept this, you rationalize it, you tell yourself it is just how friendships work, how relationships function. But deep down you know the truth: you are not their friend, you are their utility, their convenience, their option. And the moment you stop being useful, watch how fast they forget your name. Epictetus taught his students a principle that would change everything. He said we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. But here's what he really meant: pay attention to what people do, not what they say. Because people will tell you that you matter, that you are important, that they value you, but their actions, their choices, their priorities will tell you the truth. And the truth is, if you disappeared tomorrow, if you stopped being available, stopped responding, stopped showing up, most of the people in your life would not even notice until they needed something from you. And when they finally did notice, they would not reach out. Because they miss you, they would reach out because they need you. And there's a massive difference between being needed and being valued. Now here's where it gets interesting, where the ancient Stoic wisdom meets modern reality. When you remove yourself, when you become unavailable, when you stop being everyone's option, something shifts, something primal and psychological happens in their minds. And it is called the scarcity principle. Robert Cialdini studied this for decades and found that humans place higher value on things that are rare, difficult to obtain, or slipping away. And right now you are the opposite of scarce. You are abundant. You are everywhere, available, responsive, predictable, and abundance destroys value every single time. But scarcity creates panic, urgency, desire. And when you vanish, when you become scarce, suddenly those same people who ignored you, who took you for granted, who treated you as their backup plan, they start to panic. They start checking their phones, wondering why you have not reached out. They start questioning what changed, what they did wrong. They start realizing that the person who was always a stable, reliable presence in their life is gone. And for the first time, they feel your absence, and absence, as the Stoics knew, is often more powerful than presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes a way, and right. Now, what stands in your way is your availability, your need to be there for everyone, your fear that if you are not constantly present, people will forget you. But that fear, that need, is the very thing keeping you trapped as everyone's option. Because when you're always there, you become invisible. When you're always available, you become worthless, not because you lack value, but because they never had to work for your attention, your time, your energy. And here's the brutal truth, that no one wants to tell you: the people who truly value you, the ones who see you as a priority, not an option, they would never let you feel like this. They would never make you question your worth. They would never treat your presence as something disposable, because they understand what most people do not: that attention is currency, that time is the only resource you cannot get back, that energy given freely is energy wasted on those who do not deserve it. And when you start operating from this truth, when you internalize the Stoic principle, everything changes. You stop chasing, you stop explaining, you stop being available to those who only value you when they need something. And you start building a life where your presence is earned, not expected, where your time is respected, not assumed, where your energy is reciprocated, not exploited. But here is where most men fail. They understand this intellectually. They read about detachment, about self-respect, about setting boundaries. But when it comes time to actually vanish, to actually become unavailable, to actually walk away from people who treat them as options, they cannot do it because they are terrified of being alone, of being forgotten, of discovering that maybe they were never valued in the first place. And that fear, that deep primal fear of abandonment, keeps them trapped in the same cycles given people who take showing up for people who disappear, being loyal to people who betray. And the Stoics would tell you that this fear is not real. It is a story you tell yourself, a prison you built with your own thoughts. Because the truth is, you were never going to be forgotten because you were never truly seen in the first place. You were a role. You were a function. You were the person who said yes when everyone else said no. And when you remove that function, when you stop playing that role, the system breaks. And people panic not because they miss you, but because they miss what you did for them. And this distinction, this understanding is what separates men who command respect from men who beg for it. Seneca wrote in his letters that true friends are rare because most people do not know how to be alone with themselves. So they collect others to fill the void, to distract them from their own emptiness. And you have been that distraction for too long. You have been the entertainment, the therapist, the motivational speaker, the shoulder to cry on. And in return, you got what? Breadcrumbs of attention, conditional affection, transactional relationships where your value was measured by your utility, not your character. And the Stoics warned about this 20 centuries ago. They understood that most people are not looking for friends. They are looking for servants, for people they can use without reciprocation, without guilt, without consequence. And here is what happens when you vanish, when you stop responding, when you remove yourself from their convenient little ecosystem. First, there is confusion. They text you, and you do not respond immediately like you always did. They call, and it goes to voicemail. They see you online, but you are not reaching out, and this confusion sits in their mind like a splinter. They cannot ignore because you broke the pattern. You changed the game, and humans are pattern-seeking creatures. We expect consistency, predictability. And when someone who is always available suddenly is not, it creates a cognitive dissonance, a mental itch they cannot scratch, and that discomfort, that uncertainty grows into something more, something primal. Next comes a justification. They tell themselves, you are probably busy, you are going through something, you will reach out eventually. And they wait, they give a few days, maybe a week, and still nothing. And now the justification starts to crack, because deep down they know they took you for granted. They know they only reached out when they needed something. They know they treated you as an option. And now that option is gone, and the justification turns into rationalization. Maybe you were not that good a friend anyway. Maybe you are being dramatic. Maybe you are playing games. And this rationalization is their ego protecting itself, because admitting they lost something valuable because of their own actions that requires accountability. And most people would rather blame you than face their own behavior. But then something shifts. The rationalization does not stick, because weeks pass, maybe months, and you are still gone. You are not posting about them. You are not asking how they are. You are not trying to reconnect. And this is when panic sets in, real, genuine panic, because they realize you're not playing games. You're not waiting for an apology. You are not coming back. You have moved on. You have found people who value you, or better yet, you have found peace. In solitude, you have become what Marcus Aurelius called a rock that the waves keep crashing over, but still stands unmoved. And this realization, this understanding that you do not need them, that you are fine without them, that your life continued and perhaps even improved without their presence in it. This is what triggers the panic. And here is where human psychology gets fascinating. When something becomes unavailable, when something scarce slips away permanently, we suddenly see its value. We suddenly remember all the good times, all the ways that person showed up, all the things they did that we never appreciated. And this is not love. This is not genuine care. This is loss aversion. This is a psychological principle that humans feel the pain of losing something twice, as intensely as the pleasure of gaining it. And you, by vanishing, by becoming unavailable, have triggered that loss, and now they feel it, and it hurts, and they want it back. But here's the catch. They do not want you back. They want the version of you that served them, that was available, that made their life easier. They want the utility, not the human. And this is why you can never go back. Epictetus taught that we should never depend on others for our sense of worth, our happiness, our validation, because anything external can be taken away, can disappoint, can betray. But what is internal, what we cultivate within ourselves, our principles, our character, our self-respect, these cannot be touched by anyone. And when you internalize this, when you build your life on this foundation, you stop being everyone's option, because you stop making yourself available to those who do not deserve you. Stop seeking validation from people who only value what you can do for them, not who you are. And this shift, this transformation from seeking external validation to cultivating internal, worth this is what makes you disappear in their eyes, not physically, but energetically, because you're no longer vibrating at their frequency. And here is what most men do not understand about disappearing. It is not about revenge. It is not about making people miss you. It is not about playing hard to get. It is about honoring yourself. It is about recognizing that your time, your energy, your presence, these are finite resources that should be invested, not spent. And you have been spending them on people who never gave you a return. And any businessman, any entrepreneur, any person who understands value would tell you that is a losing strategy. That is how you go bankrupt emotionally, spiritually, mentally. Because you keep pouring into empty vessels into people who take and never get back. And the Stoics understood this. They understood that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing, is to remove yourself from situations that drain you, from relationships that diminish you, from environments that make you feel small. But removal is not passive, it is active, it requires discipline, it requires strength, it requires you to fight against every instinct that tells you to reach out, to explain, to justify your absence. Because the moment you do, the moment you break and send that text or make that call, you reset the dynamic, you go right back to being the option, the backup, the reliable one who always comes back. And they learn nothing, they do not panic, they do not realize what they lost, they just smile and think of course he came back, they always do, and you prove them right. And the cycle continues, and nothing changes, and you remain trapped. So what does it look like to truly vanish, to truly become unavailable? It starts with silence, not the petty kind, not the passive-aggressive kind, but a profound kind that comes from a place of peace, not pain, the kind where you are not waiting for them to notice, you are not checking. If they reached out, you are not obsessing over whether they miss you, because you move on internally. You have accepted that they were never your people, that the relationship was transactional, that you deserve more. And this acceptance, this letting go, this is what Seneca called a more fatty, the love of fate, the acceptance of what is, without resistance, without bitterness, without anger, just pure acceptance. And from that acceptance comes freedom. And in this freedom, you start to build a different life. You invest your time in people who reciprocate, who value you, who make you feel seen, not needed. You pursue goals that align with your values, not others' expectations. You create boundaries that protect your energy, not walls that isolate you. And slowly, gradually, you become someone different, someone who does not need validation from those who do not deserve to give it, someone who is not available to everyone, but selective with few, someone who understands that being everyone's option means being no one's priority. And you refuse to live that way ever again, because you have finally understood what the Stoics knew, that most people do not love you for who you are, they love you for how you make them feel. And the moment you stop making them feel good, the moment you stop being useful, the love evaporates like water in the desert. And what you're left with is a truth. And the truth is harsh, but necessary. The truth is most relationships in your life are built on convenience, not connection, on transactions, not trust, on what you provide, not who you are. In this realization, this brutal, honest realization, is what sets you free. Now, let me tell you about a man. I will call him David, because the story illustrates this principle perfectly. David was a guy everyone called a dependable one, the loyal friend, the one who showed up at 3 a.m. when someone needed help, the one who loaned money. He never got back, the one who listened to problems for hours and never complained about his own. And for years, David believed this made him valuable. He thought his willingness to sacrifice his time, his energy, his resources made him important, made him loved. And he was wrong. He was not loved, he was used. And the moment he realized this, his entire life changed. It started when David went through a crisis, his own crisis, a real one, where he needed support, where he needed someone to show up for him the way he had shown up for countless others. And he reached out to his circle, to the people he had been there for. And the responses were devastating. Some did not respond at all. Some gave generic sympathy, but no real help. Some even seemed annoyed that he was asking for something in return. And in that moment, in that painful, clarifying moment, David understood he had spent years building relationships where he was a giver and they were the takers, and the moment he needed to take to receive, to be on the other side of the equation, the relationships could not handle it, because they were never designed for reciprocity. They were designed for his exploitation. So David did something radical. He vanished, not dramatically, not with announcements or explanations. He simply stopped. He stopped reaching out. He stopped being available. He stopped responding immediately. He stopped showing up. He stopped giving. And at first, nothing happened. Radio silence. And David felt it, that fear that maybe he was wrong, maybe he was being too harsh, maybe he should reach out and repair things. But he held firm. He remembered what Epictetus said, that we cannot control others, only ourselves. And he controlled himself. He stayed in his silence, in his absence, and he waited, and slowly the panic started. First, it was confused text, "Hey man, Everything okay? Have not heard from you in a while. And David did not respond. There was more urgent calls, voicemails. Were you at bro? We should catch up. And David stayed silent. Then came the guilt trips, the manipulation. You have changed. You are different. What happened to you? And this is where most men break. This is where they cave and explain and justify. But David understood something crucial. He understood that explaining is seeking permission. And he did not need permission to value himself, to protect his energy, to remove himself from relationships that diminish him. So he stayed silent, and the panic intensified. People started showing up at his place, started asking mutual friends about him, started posting things clearly directed at him on social media. And David watched all of this with a strange sense of detachment because he realized something profound. They were not panicking because they miss him. They were panicking because they lost their utility. They lost their emotional crutch, their problem solver, their always available option. And this panicked this urgency to get him back. It was not love, it was need. And Seneca warned about this. He said, if you wish to be loved, love. And what he meant was real love requires reciprocity, requires mutual respect, requires that both people value each other not for what they provide, but for who they are. And these people never loved David. They loved what he did for them. And here's where the transformation happened. David, in his absence and his silence, started to build a new life. He started saying no to things that did not serve him. He started investing in himself and his health, his goals, his peace. And he noticed something interesting. New people entered his life, different people who respected boundaries, who valued reciprocity, who did not see him as an option or utility, but as an equal. And these relationships felt different, lighter, freer, because they were not built on obligation or neediness. They were built on mutual respect. And David realized that by vanishing from the wrong people, he made space for the right ones. But what about the people who panicked? What about his old circle? Some eventually stopped trying and moved on, found other people to use, other options to fall back on. And David felt nothing about this, no anger, no resentment, just acceptance, because he understood that people who only value you when you are useful do not deserve your energy, your time, your presence. And losing them was not a loss, it was a liberation. But a few, very small. Few did something different. They sat with the absence. They reflected on their behavior. They reached out not with demands or guilt, but with genuine apology, with acknowledgement of how they had taken him for granted, with a willingness to change, to build something real. And to those few, David opened the door, but differently this time, with boundaries, with expectations, with a clear understanding that his presence was no longer guaranteed, that it had to be earned, maintained, respected. And some of those relationships transformed, became real, became reciprocal, became what they should have been all along. And others could not handle. It could not accept that David was no longer the doormat, the always available option. And those people David let go permanently, without guilt, without regret, because he had learned the most important Stoic lesson, that your peace is more valuable than anyone's opinion, your energy is more precious than anyone's approval, your life is too short to spend it being everyone's option when you could be someone's priority, or better yet, your own priority. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, not meant for publication, just his own thoughts, that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And this is the power David discovered, the power of removal, the power of absence, the power of no longer participating in relationships that diminished him. And this power is available to every man reading this, every man who has felt invisible, undervalued, taken for granted. Because the moment you vanish, the moment you become unavailable, the moment you stop being everyone's option, the power dynamic shifts completely and irreversibly. But here's the warning. Here's what you need to understand before you vanish. Vanishing is not a strategy to get people back. It is not manipulation. It is not a game. If you disappear hoping they will chase you, you have already lost, because you are still seeking their validation, still hoping they will prove you are valuable. And the Stoics would tell you that external validation is a trap, that true strength comes from internal validation, from knowing your worth regardless of whether anyone else sees it. So when you vanish, it must come from a place of genuine detachment, not hurt pride, not wounded ego, not revenge, but from a clear-eyed understanding that these relationships are not serving you and you deserve better. And when you vanish from this place of genuine detachment, something miraculous happens. You stop caring about who notices, you stop checking. If they reached out, you stop hoping for apologies or change behavior, because you have moved on internally. You have accepted that they were not your people. And this acceptance, this true detachment, is what makes the vanishing permanent and powerful, because you're not waiting for anything you're not expecting. Anything. You have simply closed that chapter and started writing a new one. And in this new chapter, you are not everyone's option. You are selective, intentional, deliberate about who gets access to your time, your energy, your presence. And this selectivity, this intentionality, is what the Stoics called wisdom, the wisdom to know that not everyone deserves a seat at your table, that your life is not a charity for emotional vampires, that your presence is a privilege, not a right. And when you operate from this wisdom, when you make decisions from this place of clarity and self-respect, the entire world shifts around you, because you are no longer playing a game where you beg for scraps of attention. You are setting the terms, you are deciding who gets access and who does not. And this level of control, this level of sovereignty over your own life is what separates men who are respected from men who are tolerated. Now, let me tell you what happens in the months after you vanish, after the panic subsides, after people realize you're truly gone. There is a sorting that occurs, a natural selection of relationships. Some people disappear completely, and good riddance, they were never yours to begin with. They were tourists in your life, passing through, taking what they could, and moving on, and their absence should be celebrated, not mourned, because every person who leaves creates space for someone better, someone real. Someone who understands that relationships are built not on convenience, but on commitment, not on what you can extract, but on what you can create together. And these people, the real ones, they appear when you stop accepting the fake ones. But here is something most men do not expect after vanishing, after becoming unavailable, after removing themselves from toxic dynamics. They discover something terrifying and liberating at the same time. They discover that they do not need as many people as they thought they did, that most of their relationships were obligations, not connections, that the silence, the solitude, the space where all those demanding voices used to be is not. Empty, it is peaceful, and this peace, this stillness, is what Seneca meant when he said, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." And you have been running from this retreat, running from yourself, by filling your life with people who do not deserve you, because being alone meant facing the truth that maybe you were not as important as you thought. Maybe your value was inflated by your usefulness and deflated by your absence. But that fear, that story is a lie. The truth is your value exists independent of anyone's recognition of it. Your worth is not determined by how many people need you, but by how you show up for yourself, by the standards you set, by the boundaries you enforce, by the life you build when no one is watching. And this internal validation, this self-generated worth, is the foundation of everything the Stoics taught. Because once you have it, once you truly internalize it, you are enough regardless of who stays or goes. You become unshakable, unmovable, untouchable by the opinions and actions of others. And this state, this way of being, is what makes you truly disappear from their reality, because you no longer need their validation, their approval, their attention. And when you no longer need it, something strange happens. People sense that they feel the shift in your energy. They notice you are not chasing, not explaining, not seeking. And this confuses them, because most people only understand relationships based on need, based on lack, based on one person wanting something from another. But you're operating from abundance, from sufficiency, from a place where you are whole without them. And this wholeness, this completeness, is magnetic. It attracts the right people and repels the wrong ones. It creates a natural filter where only those who can match your energy, who can respect your boundaries, who can offer real connection, can get close, and everyone else falls away naturally, effortlessly, without drama or confrontation. Epictetus had a student once who complained that people did not respect him, and Epictetus asked him a simple question: do you respect yourself? And the student was silent, because he realized the truth that we teach people how to treat us by how we treat ourselves, that if you do not respect your own time, why would anyone else? If you do not value your own energy, why would they? If you do not protect your own peace, why would they care about disrupting it? And this teaching, this fundamental principle, is why vanishing works, why becoming unavailable shifts everything, because it is the ultimate act of self-respect. It is you say, my time matters, my energy matters, my presence matters. And if you do not treat it that way, you do not get access to a period, no explanations, no justifications, no second chances. Now here is a practical application. Here is how you implement this in your life. Starting today, first you audit every relationship in your life, and you ask yourself one question: does this person add value to my life, or extract it? Do they give energy, or take it? Do they respect my boundaries, or constantly push against them? And be honest, brutally honest. Because most men lie to themselves. They make excuses, they justify, they rationalize, they say things like, well, they're going through a tough time, or we have history, or maybe I'm being too sensitive. And all of these justifications are ways of avoiding the truth that this relationship is draining you and you're allowing it. Second, you start practicing what the Stoics call selective association. You become intentional about who gets your time, who receives your energy, who has access to your presence. And this is not about being cold or distant. This is about being strategic, about understanding that you have limited resources. And investing them wisely means choosing people who reciprocate, who respect, who value what you bring, and removing yourself from those who do not. And this removal does not require confrontation, does not need dramatic exits. You just become less available, less responsive, less present. You fade out slowly, gradually, until you are gone. And if they notice, if they reach out, you can choose to engage or not based on whether they demonstrate real change, real effort, real respect. Third, you build what I call the fortress of self, the internal structure that does not depend on external validation for stability. You develop routines that ground you, practices that center you, goals that drive you independent of anyone else's opinion or participation. You read, you train, you create, you build. And in this building, in this creation, you discover something powerful. You discover that you do not need other people to feel complete. You want meaningful connections. Yes, you desire real relationships, absolutely, but you do not need anyone. And this shift from need to want, from dependence to preference, this is what gives you the power to walk away from anything that does not serve you without hesitation, without guilt, without fear. And finally, you embrace what Marcus Aurelius practiced every morning. He would remind himself that today he would encounter ungrateful people, jealous people, manipulative people. And instead of being surprised or hurt by this, he expected it. He prepared for it. He did not let their behavior disturb his peace, because he understood that their actions were about them, not him. And when you adopt this mindset, when you expect that most, people will disappoint you, will take you for granted, will treat you as an option. You're never caught off guard. You are never devastated. You simply observe, accept, and remove yourself without emotional turmoil, without inner conflict, because you knew this was possible. You prepared for it. And you have a plan, which is to vanish completely, to remove yourself so thoroughly that you become a ghost in their memory, a lesson they learned too late, a presence they took for granted until it was gone. And this vanishing, this complete removal, is not cruelty. It is self-preservation. It is you finally understanding that some people do not deserve explanations, do not deserve closure, do not deserve anything from you except your absence. And when you give them that absence, when you honor yourself enough to walk away, you reclaim something that was stolen, your power, your peace, your sovereignty over your own life. And here's the final truth, the ultimate Stoic wisdom that ties all of this together. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire in human history, commanded legions, controlled the fate of millions, and yet every morning he wrote his journal, reminding himself that external things do not touch the soul, that the only thing he truly controlled was his own mind, his own responses, his own choices. And if an emperor needed this reminder of a man with ultimate external power still focused on internal power, then what does that tell you? It tells you that no amount of people, no amount of validation, no amount of external approval will ever fill the void that only self-respect can fill. You have been everyone's option because you made yourself available to everyone. You gave your presence freely, without discrimination, without standards, without boundaries. And in doing so, you devalue the very thing that makes you valuable, your selectivity, your discernment, your ability to say, no, this ends now, today, in this moment. You make a choice to vanish from the lives of people who do not value you, to become unavailable to those who only need you, to remove yourself from dynamics that diminish you. And in that removal, in that conscious, deliberate withdrawal, you'll discover what the Stoics promised 2,000 years ago, that true freedom comes not from being needed by many, but from being sufficient unto yourself. The panic will come, they will notice, they will reach out, they will wonder what happened, and your response is silence, not angry silence, not resentful silence, but profound silence. A man who has found peace in his own company, who has built a life that does not require external validation, who has learned that being everyone's option is the fastest way to become no one's priority. And you refuse to live that way ever again, because you have tasted something better. You have experienced the power of absence, the strength of unavailability, the freedom of selectivity. And nothing they offer, nothing they promise, nothing they say will ever convince you to go back to being a person who is always there, always available, always taken for granted. Seneca died facing his executioners, ordered by Nero to take his own life. And in those final moments, he was calm, peaceful, accepting, because he had lived according to his principles, had valued what mattered, had not wasted his life seeking approval from those unworthy of giving it. And while your situation is not life or death, the principle remains. You have one life, one collection of days that will never return, and every moment you spend being everyone's option is a moment stolen from becoming. someone's priority, or better yet, your own priority. So take the lesson, take the wisdom, take the 2,000 years of Stoic philosophy that all points to the single truth: your presence is valuable, your time is precious, your energy is finite, and anyone who does not treat it that way does not deserve access to it. Now you know what happens when you vanish: the confusion, the justification, the panic, the realization. And you know why it works, because humans only value what is scarce, what requires effort, what can be lost, and you, by becoming unavailable, have triggered every psychological principle that creates desire. But remember, this is not about them, this is about you, this is about reclaiming your life, your power, your peace. This is about building a fortress of self that does not require anyone else's validation to stand strong. And when you build this fortress, when you vanish from the wrong people, the right ones will find you, and they will not take you for granted, because they will see what others missed, that you are not an option, you are a priority. And if they cannot treat you that way, they do not get to treat you at all. The ancient Stoics are gone, their empires turned to dust, their cities buried under time, but their wisdom remains, because truth does not age, does not fade, does not become irrelevant. And the truth they taught is a truth you now carry. You cannot control others, only yourself. That external validation is a prison. That true power comes from internal sufficiency. And that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing, is to vanish, is to become so unavailable, so selective, so self-sufficient that the people who took you for granted spend the rest of their lives wondering what they lost. And by the time they figure out, you'll be so far gone, so completely transformed, so utterly unbothered, that their panic, their regret, their belated appreciation means nothing to you, because you found something they never gave you: respect from yourself. So stop being everyone's option. Stop being available to people who would not cross the street for you. Stop investing in relationships that would not survive if you stop giving. Vanish, become unavailable. Protect your energy and watch as your life transforms, as real people enter, as fake people exit. As you finally understand what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, your power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You have realized it. Now use it, build it. Protect it, and never again allow anyone to treat your presence as a convenience, your time as unlimited, your energy as expendable. Because you are done being everyone's option today, you become selective, intentional, deliberate. And in that transformation, you find what you've been searching for all along: freedom. If this script resonated with you, if you felt the truth in these words, subscribe now, because this is just the beginning. Every video on this channel is designed to give you the ancient wisdom that modern men desperately need. The Stoics spent lifetimes mastering themselves, so you do not have to figure it out alone. Hit subscribe,